And welcome to the 2024 MBA College Essay Contest. Before we get started, a brief thank you to MBA alumnus Stephen Bess of the class of 1995. Without his generosity, we would not be able to offer cash prizes to our top 3 finalists. So thank you, big thank you to him. Our top 3 essays were selected from 15 submissions. So seniors, if you submitted an essay for consideration, thank you very much for that. And I would like to welcome our panel this morning. So first up, Dr. Doug Christiansen, Vice Provost for University Enrollment Affairs and Dean of Admissions and Financial Aid at Vanderbilt University. Up next, Mr. Wynn Bassett, English faculty, golf and track and field coach, honored council advisor at MBA. And last but certainly not least, Mr. Dick Klausner, English faculty, soccer coach, and retired college counselor MVP at MBA. Each finalist will read his essay. So David, you'll start us off, followed by Raleigh and then William. And then we will have Dr. Christiansen say a few words before we announce the winner. So David, you're up.
Using a folded piece of paper as a funnel, I tap rocket fuel into a cardboard tube. Burning glue and sulfur enter my nostrils. My brother Thomas watches over my 8-year-old shoulder as the granules fall into the crease. It is a satisfying process, and I frequently ask when I can make more bottle rockets. The days are long, and it is not hard to convince him to ignore his summer reading. So he gives in, guaranteeing another afternoon in our secret basement laboratory. Looking back, we're lucky to have all of our fingers, but at the time, it seemed nothing could go wrong in my pocket of fun with an older brother. Though Thomas was 6 years older, we stuck together at the tail end of a family of 9 kids. He introduced me to a world of independent exploration and adventure. No matter what sparked his interest, he would YouTube a tutorial and then yell my name from across the house when he needed a hand. While the older kids seemed to have all the fun, Thomas and I were a team, exploring whatever we wanted under the radar. When I heard my name called, I would bolt to his side. Thomas followed his obsession with fireworks by reshelling shotgun ammo, woodworking, growing tobacco, and repairing engines. It was bittersweet for me when we finally got his old truck running and his adventures took him away from home. Left alone with parents who don't allow cable or video games, I felt doomed to a life without fun. Luckily, Thomas had taught me to set the bar high for developing mastery over a subject or skill, even if it took time and risked failure. I channeled my intensity into music, training my singing voice, practicing guitar late at night, and learning jazz theory. My family regularly hosted music nights, and performing fulfilled a need to connect with others after my siblings emptied the house. Urged on by the applause as I became more skilled, I began songwriting and busking for extra cash. Over the past 2 years, Curiosity, supported by my school's competitive summer learning grants, sent me off to France to study history, to Austin, Texas to study philosophy, to Interlochen and Berkeley to study music, and to North Carolina to explore engineering. 9 years since I made my first bottle rocket, I began to comprehend the actual scale of life. The summer seems hotter, the crickets grow louder, the house is quieter, and I think about college. I hope to find mentors and friends who enjoy a life of learning just for the challenge, like Thomas and I did. Although I am unsure if I will focus my studies on mechanical problems, philosophical questions, or music, I am as confident in my own creative pursuits as Thomas and I were in our secret basement laboratory. With mixed emotions about leaving home, I fill the silence by playing and singing the songs my brothers stuck in my head years ago. I hold the guitar in my lap, looking forward to what is next.
Raleigh?
Policy debaters are often characterized as sophists, argument robots who learn to disregard their personal convictions for the sake of victory. But the activity has had the opposite effect on me. It introduced me to the issue I care most passionately about today: how our government has succumbed to the anti-democratic forces of outsized corporate influence and rampant voter suppression. This passion arose during my freshman year as I was preparing for the Novice National Championships. Over the course of that year, I had fallen in love with everything about policy debate: the cutthroat competition, the rigorous argumentation, and most importantly, the gargantuan amounts of research. I like to describe debate as a competitive research activity. Teams from across the country engage in a year-long scramble to find the best evidence to support their claims in the round. It's an arduous process that I've come to thoroughly enjoy. For the Novice National Championships, I have been researching ways in which the federal government could reform criminal sentencing in the United States. For most of that year, my partner and I had relied on research by our team's older debaters, like abolishing the death penalty. For this tournament, we needed something new to hopefully catch our opponents off guard. As a first-year debater, no one expected me to research for the team, but my competitive nature kicked in. After rifling through law reviews and news articles, I soon stumbled across a gold mine: proposals to crack down on companies funneling foreign funds into U.S. electoral campaigns. Digging deeper, I was shocked by broader corruption in the government and the utter failures of law enforcement. One topic in particular stood out to me: the Supreme Court case of Citizens United v. Federal Election Commission. The court ruled that campaign donations should be protected as free speech, rendering any regulation of donations impossible. My research also led me to works by authors like Robert Mutch and Senator Sheldon Whitehouse, who wrote about the advent of political action committees and the sneaky strategies companies use to circumvent lax donation laws. I became upset. My childish naivete about the purity of our democracy had been smashed. I realized how easily the voices of voters could be drowned out in the sea of corporate power. Up until that point, I had been interested about politics, but my research ignited something different inside of me: a sense of purpose. I realized not only who I wanted to become, but whom and what I wanted to fight for. Determined to stay informed, I've actively kept up with legislation and court decisions in the area of election laws by following blogs and reading books on campaign finance and voter suppression. I also threw myself into local and congressional grassroots campaigns aimed at promoting civic engagement. Earlier this year, I was proud to cast my ballot for a Nashville mayoral candidate whom I'd canvassed for and organized phone banks for. Having recently turned 18, voting felt empowering. But it also reminded me of the privilege that I have to vote freely. That privilege, as my studies have taught me, has never been universal in this country's history. This year, I've had the opportunity to study the women's suffrage movement in depth through a research course. Learning about the tactics of that movement is helping me think more critically about how to combat modern forms of voter disenfranchisement. The greatest insight from those studies has been that achieving change requires an interdisciplinary and intersectional approach, not solely reliant on law, media, or grassroots movements. Further developing my advocacy skills in college as a writer, a speaker, and a historian means even more to me now as I am raring to begin my work.
And William.
Hey, Nico, what's up? I saw Nico sitting on the sidelines of the basketball court, and I knew something was wrong. Nico explained that no one would pick him for their team. I racked my brain for a solution. If I forced his older brother and friends to let him play, they would resent him for telling on them. I needed another option. After stumbling upon a chessboard earlier that week, I suddenly had an idea. Have you ever played chess? Like millions of Americans during COVID, I became interested in chess after watching The Queen's Gambit on Netflix. The mental challenge and intricate calculations involved captivated me. With the extra time provided by online school, I delved deeper into the game. I watched chess videos, solved puzzles, and fiddled with computer analysis of the game for hours, discovering new ways to take my games in unique directions. Chess became a way for me to unwind after a long day at school, as I would play while listening to music with my AirPods, focused only on the 64 squares. As Nico and I sat down to play, I discovered teaching a 10-year-old chess might be more difficult than I originally thought. Chess was no longer my alone time. It was time shared with an easily distracted kid. To Nico, chess was simply a board where he played pretend castle before he was old enough to play basketball, but he was eager to discover the real rules of the game. While he bombarded me with questions, I began to think about basic concepts in a new light, and my understanding of the game deepened. I learned from Nico's approach to the game. He had a question about every move, not just his own. His inquisitiveness not only led to his rapid improvement, but he was better able to respond to my attacking playstyle by trying to understand my reasoning behind every move. I started to emulate this strategy. To make my teaching more engaging, I realized I needed to suppress my theoretical and nerdy love of chess. Rather than explain the power of a knight positioned in the center of the board by focusing on its 8 possible moves, I coined it the octopus knight. Nico would wave his arms around like tentacles every time he moved a knight into the center. Nico also wanted to learn Spanish, so I taught him the Spanish words for the pieces to make their names more interesting. After all, why isn't a knight called a horse or a rook a castle? What even is a rook? These simple mnemonics made the game fun for Nico and put chess into terms that he would better remember. As more kids became interested in chess, I enlisted Nico to help teach. I soon realized that the kids responded better when their friend explained the rules. In their minds, if Nico could learn to play, why couldn't they? By teaching Nico, I had made learning chess seem accessible to the kids. I resisted the urge to interrupt and proudly watched as Nico explained the game, adding his own creative spin to his explanations. Teaching Nico and witnessing his growth improved my chess skills, but more importantly, I learned how to adapt my approach to meet the needs of others and teach chess in a way that was fun and comprehensible. Just as I modified my teaching methods to help Nico understand and excel at chess, I will strive to adapt my approach to different subjects and challenges I encounter in the future. Most importantly, in my interactions with others, I will act with patience, empathy, and a willingness to meet them where they are, just as I did with Nico.
Thank you all for sharing. So before we announce our winner, we'd like to invite Dr. Chris Jansen up to the podium to say a few words.
Great job, all 3 of you. I'm going to give a couple of comments on the essay, not in any order other than just 1, 2, and 3, and then they'll tally up the votes, if you will. But first of all, when you think about a college essay, I want you to think quickly about an admissions committee sitting there and an admissions evaluator reading your essay. Sometimes we think an essay you're writing for us. This is the time you want to write for yourself. This is the time you want to be as open and as authentic of who you are as a human being as we develop and craft a class. So really think about, don't write what you think we want to hear. We want you to write about you. This is so we get to know you. And highly selective admissions processes across the country, that's one area of the essay that lets you really distinguish yourself among the other applicants. And again, we're building a community and we're trying to understand who each of you are individually. So really think about that when you're writing your essay. On essay number 1, David it is, correct? Paints a vivid picture of relationships between brothers that helps the reader or the admissions officer imagine a student as a good roommate, engaged member of the college community. The structure is easy to follow. It's the past, foundation of curiosity and determination learned from experiences with brother. Present highlights accomplishments and educational opportunities in high school years because of skills learned, curiosity peaked when he was young. Future tells the admissions officer what he hopes to find in a college setting. The last paragraph really helps the reader see a great fit for the liberal arts, interest across academic disciplines. Great job. Raleigh frames his interest in debate as a passion that drives pursuits in multiple ways, not simply an activity in life. The passion he has for debate, not just an activity. Format of the essay helps the admissions officer understand how debate began as an interest, built into a passion, and is now a driving force that shapes how how Raleigh hopes to engage Impact College and beyond. In his storytelling, he weaves his strengths, research skills, initiative, team leadership, and accomplishments in the high school and in the local community. Raleigh then uses how to imagine himself on a college campus, and it lets us understand how we will see him on our college campus. So great job, Raleigh. And the third one, William, paints an engaging picture of two boys working together to learn and play a game of chess. William demonstrates maturity, kindness, self-awareness, and humility in recognizing that teaching is a mutually beneficial experience when both parties learn and grow in different ways. This helps the reader or the admissions officer see many qualities that colleges hope to find in members of their campus community. You can imagine the kind of roommate, classmate, and community member Raleigh would be on a college campus. William. Format and structure is easy to follow. William developed a love of chess during COVID and learned how he could learn about the game. He engages a younger person in creativity in inventive ways to teach him how to play. The two work together to use how they shared this love of chess together back and forth, the reciprocal sense, and again, a sense of how one would connect with other people on campus, both a larger community and one-to-one interaction. So William, great job on that. And again, I want to just leave you with the essay. By the time you apply, most of your testing is done, most of your activities are done, most of all of your grades are in, but your essay is your spot that you can still think about what you want that admissions officer and committee to know about you. Again, individually, authentically. And again, if I leave one thing with you today, don't write what you think I want to hear. This is the time to truly write about yourself, and that will help you in the process much more than trying to think about what we want to hear. Thank you for having me here today.
Thank you, Dr. Christiansen. That was fabulous advice. And juniors, I really hope you are paying attention, especially because Mr. Dunnigan and I just wrapped up some really intensive essay programming with you. Also, shameless plug, we do have 2 work days for our juniors coming up the last 2 Sundays of April, so please be sure to attend one of those. Anyway, I'm announcing our winner, followed by 2nd and 3rd place, so if you want to give me a drum roll. Alrighty, in 1st place with $250 is David Billette. And then 2nd place with $150 is William Dean. And then 3rd place with $100 is Raleigh Maxwell. So good job and thank you, you 3. Excellent work.